Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hello and welcome to my show. This is your host, your sister Amira, speaking live on Heritage Radio 90.6 FM. And we have an amazing show for you today. We've got two beautiful sisters in the studio. Safia, can you hear?
No.
No? I hope I'm live here.
I can.
I'm definitely live. We've got Safia and Angela, and could you like to say assalamu alaikum? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And this
Assalamu
is Safia.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Angela and Safia. I've got to
That's
get
right.
their names right. So inshallah we'll be talking to them. They're doing a very interesting project, and they're collating stories about when your dua was answered. Amazing stuff. And it's a beautiful day, and I'm sure you're eager as much as I am to learn all about these sisters. And let's just hear the end of this nasheed. It's a beautiful nasheed.
سيد الخلق جندك الأنبياء علمك العلم ما لعلمك حد حلمك الحلم طبعك الإغضاء لك يا سيدي من الفضل ما لا تحتويه الأرجاء والأنحاء ما يضر البدر المنير المزكى أنت هب العواصف الهوجاء هو في قبة السماء وهادي
This is Heritage Radio.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Aisha Khan. I work with the Flohesion Foundation. Do you suffer from depression, stress, or anxiety? If so, we offer free, no obligation counseling sessions to the BEMA community. All you have to do to qualify is fill in a simple form on the Flohesion Foundation website under Mead Counseling, or call me on 07549 571 970 and we can get one of our experienced counsellors to contact you.
IMRA has been a UK-based charity for the last 20 years and has been providing the gift of speech and hearing to disadvantaged children, mainly in Pakistan, for the last 10 years. IMRA has provided one of the largest free cochlear implant programs in the world to nearly 100 children, with each implant costing £25,000 or $35,000. Please help IMRAN to transform the lives of these children and their families by donating at imra-doctors.com and follow the link. That's imra-doctors.com.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. As promised, we've got two beautiful sisters in the studio today, Safia and Angela, who both have their own radio show as well, which is broadcast when?
On Wednesdays at 12. So every Wednesday here on the Heritage Radio at 12. So tomorrow we should be talking about breathing.
Oh, very interesting. I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about breath work as well. So
Yes, I listened to that one and I thought it was quite good. So talked about self-care as well, and all that. It was a brilliant show.
Yes.
It's really, really inspiring.
Yeah, mashallah. So yes, so your show is all about health and fitness.
Wellness,
And
like overall
wellness,
mind,
well-being.
body, soul.
Mashallah.
So-
So I'd love to know a little bit about your backgrounds. So Safia, first of all, I understand you're from France.
That's right, yes. I came here March 1994, so you can do the calculation. 28 years ago.
Wow.
As an adult, I just finished my studies. I studied languages and business. Came to England. Like a lot of French people, the dream was to go and live in London. Not in England, I have to specify, we all dreamed about London because that's where everything was happening, pop culture, fashion, everything. That was different from France.
Yeah.
And quite different because on those times, if you remember, in the 90s, it was kind of the tail end of the punk
Grunge,
time and stuff.
grunge.
Boy
and
George.
yeah, and the sort of really different styles, whereas in France everybody's much more, very elegant but very conformist. And I know a lot of English people, their idea of living in a fancy place would be to live in Paris. So, we kind of swap.
You're originally from Paris,
But
itself.
I am originally from Alsace near Germany and Switzerland. So Strasbourg, for those who know, near Strasbourg, where the seat of European Parliament is. So I really I was keen to come because I was studying English. It really made sense to come and live here. I worked in public relations a little bit for a few years, converted to Islam in the process.
Mashallah.
Was fed up with the nightlife and all the things I'd come to London for.
Yes.
I was really fed up with that, so I wanted meaning in my life, and I came across Islam, converted to Islam, alhamdulillah, long before the time of internet and access to all sorts of information. You just had to try and find books and places to go.
So what is your story? What actually led you to Islam?
It was because I had reached a point where I found that my relationship with other people was very vain, very unfulfilling, not really leading anywhere. There was, very dunya oriented. So I had a contact with, at university back in France, I was in contact with a lot of Algerians, North Africans, originally, obviously French, but originally from North Africa, who had either an Islamic culture or were practicing Muslims. So I kept in touch and asked to discuss things about my disappointment with adult life. Wanting to do more, wanting to have an impact in the world, wanting to understand why I was who I was in that place in the world. And so that's when one of them said, well, look, ultimately I have to tell you, he had told me a lot about God in general when we were at uni, but then he said, look, ultimately I have to tell you, there's nothing better than Islam. Islam's the truth, the rest is just distortions of the message. And I was like, oh, right, okay, that's interesting. And I always admired his brain and his understanding of the world and his convictions as well about things. And I was so confused in my head and thrown here, there and everywhere, and according to people's whims and my own whims. So when he said this so convincingly and so sort of convinced about it, I thought, okay, he must know something, because I trust his judgment.
Yeah.
And so he sent me some information, and he told me then, yes, obviously, yes, of course, I am a practicing Muslim, and I pray 5 times a day. What do you think? And I fast. And I was like, what? You prostrate on the ground 5 times a day? You, like, in my head, you humiliate yourself like this, because it is an act of humiliation in a sense where you actually show that you know you're humble, you know you don't have a lot of control over things, you know there's a greater power that has control over things, and who's your creator and wants you good. And I thought, if he does this, this guy does this, it must be the truth, 100%, I have no doubt.
Mashallah.
And then I opened the Quran,
Yes.
and I fell into that verse that said, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil, or Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, which means place your trust in Allah, as Allah is the best of protectors. Allahu Akbar. That was the answer of all my questions for the last 7-8 years since I was even longer, because I started thinking about spiritual things when I was 14, 15, exposed to Oriental religions and paths and Buddhism and new age, whatever.
We're all looking for things, aren't we?
Yeah, and to have that answer and then reading the Quran, realizing that the Quran was basically a treaty, like a manual about human beings.
Yes.
It has everything about psychology, health, law, inheritance, relationship with people, everything.
I always find
relationship
it
with the
so
world.
fascinating that, you know, non-Muslims or people coming into the religion, they actually read the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to know the Quran, and through that they fall in love with the religion.
Yeah.
You know, mashallah. And even us born Muslims, I think now I'm starting another Quran class, and I'm actually going through the Quran cover to cover.
Yes, in English, you mean?
In English.
In English.
In English.
So essential. So
Yes.
essential to do that. Yes, this is my husband and I. We are involved in a project like this called the Public Quran Campaign, and it is Public Quran Campaign.
Okay.
And it's all about putting signs up outside of mosques. There's one in Eccles, there's one in Disbury, there's one in London, in North London, Palmer's Green, and we're going to have more and more and more. It's a charity, well,
Yes.
it's a non-profit that we've set up, and it's all about this. It's all about putting the Quran out.
Yes.
In plain modern
English.
that's
Yeah.
simple to understand for everyone to connect with.
Yeah, I've seen that one in Disbury, and
Yeah.
I always look at it and I think this is so amazing.
yeah,
It's so clear, and
Yeah.
so many people can relate to it.
yeah, exactly. So it's essential to be able to understand. What you're reading. Why is the message? What is the message? It's like trying to drive a car, but your manual is in Chinese.
Yes.
How can you understand how your road code and everything if you read it in Chinese and you just mumble words that are just sounds?
Yeah.
You can't drive your car. You'll crash. And effectively, that's what happens to a lot of people. They crash in their lives,
Yes.
especially the youth. So obviously, because we have to know what we're getting into, we have to learn it. We have to read it in our own language. There's no
And maybe
other
that's
option.
the difference with converts and born Muslims, because born Muslims are growing up as Muslims. They take it for granted,
Yeah.
That's true.
right? Whereas converts are coming new. You're changing your identity almost. So you have to know what you're doing, right?
So let's over to you, Angela. Mashallah, tell me something about your background.
Well, I'll take a page out of Sophia's description. I'll start a little bit back instead of just a few years ago. My parents are Greek, but I was born in Canada, so I'm from the Greek community of Canada, of Toronto. And I never thought I would move. That was it, Canada, right?
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, I moved to the UK early 2000s. I got remarried, and I came back here with my kids.
Yeah.
And my husband had his own family, so we merged this family of 11 people. Well,
Oh,
they never all lived together, thank God. But I came to
It's like
Islam
a
when I was
Brady Bunch.
18. Yeah, something like that. But I was 18 when I came to Islam in Canada. I met Muslim young people in my high school. And I also met my husband at the time. And I like what I liked about Islam at that time. When you're 18, you don't think very deeply, and I didn't, was the monotheistic aspect of Islam, where, because I come from a Greek Orthodox background,
Yes.
it's a bit like Catholics. They worship the Trinity, the aspect of God, that it's 1 in 3 or 3 in 1, and they have the saints and all of that. So the Greeks have the same stuff, and they worship Mary, Prophet Isa's mom.
Yes.
And so that was the first thing that brought me to Islam. Okay, I was accepting, I'll take Shahada based on that alone. Then with problems in my life, I started learning more about Islam, because I wanted to see what did I bring my children into, because at that time, And then when I found out all the rights Islam affords women,
Yeah.
I lost my mind. I was so amazed. It's like, yes, this is the right religion. So it took me a few years to get started. So by the time I was 27, I was full in love with Islam, because it really brought, it showed that the problems you're having are not from Allah. it's because of people's mistakes, people's weaknesses, and then you use Islam and say, well, Islam doesn't say you can do this. Islam, why are you doing this? And other people don't like
you see the difference between cultural Islam and what it actually is.
So I like the aspect of women's rights in Islam, justice in Islam, the aspect of not being racist, about not categorizing people because of the color of their skin, which they're not in charge of.
Yeah.
And so many things relating to the rights Allah gives us, right? So that really impacted me. And after that, I was like, wow, I love it. So it was easier then to take on everything about Islam. Although when you're a convert, you're going from group to group, trying to figure out where you fit in, and everybody's giving you their advice. Some people tell you, oh, this is haram, this is haram. Why? When I remember all those things, I'm surprised that I'm still here, because sometimes they kind of can push you. Oh, you ask yourself, can I do this? Can I do this? No, it was too much. Some of the stuff they say you should do are too much, and then you realize it's just their interpretation.
Yes, I've seen that as well.
Right.
So from Toronto, you moved to.
I moved to Manchester. So here I am now for almost 20 years. I haven't lost count.
Yeah, I've been to Toronto a couple of times, so it's very nice.
A lot of British people.
Mississauga
is west of Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of Muslims live there. A lot.
Yeah, very nice. You must have seen it so different, because Canada is so vast and open and clean and new.
Here we're like, why? And everybody at the shop will ask me, well, where are you from? I'll say I'm from Toronto. And the first thing they'll say is, what are you doing here? I want to say, I don't know. What am I doing here? Don't keep reminding me, okay?
This is, it shows, how Allah places you in some place. This verse of what Allah says, you think you think that a thing is good for you and it isn't.
Yes.
And another thing is bad for you and it's good for you. And this is exactly it, And I don't think there's like perfect places anywhere, generally speaking. But you can see, ever since Angela's been here, and then we met 15 years ago when we were homeschooling. So that's another side of our life.
But you were in London.
No, I've been living in Manchester for 17 years now, 18 years.
So you met because you were both homeschooling.
And all of the things we've done together since. I don't want to kind of just bring you just down to me, but
no,
we've done so much together, and this is now the completion, concrete.
Well, I guess now
manifestation of that.
Alhamdulillah, I always pray that when you're good friends with somebody, make a dua to make your friendship a good for both of you, not to be just for the dunya, because. It's empty then. So now we've actually doing something that I feel hopefully Allah will accept, Inshallah. And with the intention that he will make it happen, because obviously who are we to think you can help people increase their iman? We're just nobodies, but maybe with Allah's blessings we'll be able to just do something, because we want good in this life and in the next,
inshallah.
So every intention has to be about that.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the show. And we've got lovely sisters Safia and Angela here. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to call in, and the studio number is 0161 883 2255. And I was just saying, during the break, that it's just amazing that you've been friends so long. And you're doing projects together, mashallah, just amazing. And just yesterday I was thinking of a friend I had in high school, and I think my kids are fed up with me saying it so many times, but she was a Greek Cypriot.
As well. So
yes,
that's a connection.
Yeah. Is she Muslim?
No.
So you won't be able to, if you say her happy birthday on the radio, you don't think she'll hear, but there's a Greek radio station in London. So if you want to say happy birthday to her, call to the London Greek radio.
How do you say happy birthday in Greek?
They don't really say happy birthday, but they'll say Χρόνια πολλά, which means many years. Right. So they say that phrase for all the holidays, Χρόνια πολλά. And but if you know her name, you can call London Greek Radio and just leave a
That's
message.
And also, you know, the power of Facebook. So many people have been reconnected.
I know.
But you know, there's one thing that I do is that make a dua. You know, we're talking about, we are going to talk about later on about the power of dua.
Absolutely, yeah.
You make a dua, really sincere dua. Oh Allah, if it's good for me, reunite me with that friend that I've lost contact with. And subhanallah, you know, if Allah decides that it's good for you, it will happen. You will reconnect by some magical, miraculous way.
Absolutely. You know, I grew up in North London.
Oh yeah, I know the area well.
I always had Greek friends.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
From primary up to
Now,
high school.
did you find, are you from the Asian community?
Yes, I am.
So do you find that the Greeks, when you met them then, when you're
Yes.
young, the similar culture, the way they are with the girls,
Very
right?
similar at that time, because we're going back some few years now. You know, the Greek women used to see them wearing the black coats.
Oh wait,
and
that
everything.
black is when
And-
somebody dies.
No,
something-
no.
Oh, no.
No, ordinarily
Oh, okay.
in the street, almost like a bias.
Oh, okay.
And they used to think that I was Greek. I wasn't wearing
Covered.
hijab at that time when I was young, but they used to stop me in the streets and start speaking Greek with me. And I always had Greek friends. You know, I can name so many of
There's
them.
a big, this is where my in-laws live, and I've lived there as well for several years. It's a very
Whereabouts?
big Wood Green area.
Yes,
You
I,
have-
I lived in Camden.
Yeah, right. And the Seoul area, there's a big street starting,
Yes.
and you've got lots of Greeks and Turks.
Yeah.
And they live side by side as well. They have their businesses side by side.
Absolutely.
It's a fantastic place. I really love that. It's kind of a little piece of Oriental
a little bit
life.
of nostalgia there. And especially the Greek pastries.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes.
So
Let's not go down that route.
Yum, yum.
So do you cook Greek and
Yes.
Pakistani food?
I can do both now. I've actually, because I married so young, I learned how to cook Asian food, Indian food first, before I even learned how to do Greek food. Because Greek food, I grew up with it, right? But when I got married to a Pakistani, they wanted me to learn Pakistani Indian food. So okay, I learned how to make chapatis and parathas and dals. Up to this day I don't like dal though. It is so traumatic for me. I don't know. I don't make it good. I don't know why. But Greek stuff I started making when I moved here, because my husband now is Greek, and gave me a chance to
Reconnect
use
with your-
what I was cooking. I started making Greek food. So yeah, I can do both. But,
lovely.
yeah.
You
Of
can
course,
do
Greek-
more than both. You know,
Yes.
you
Greek
can,
food
you're a
is
really
very
good cook,
similar
mashallah.
to Turkish food as well.
I didn't know this about Turkish stuff until I moved here. We visited Turkey from here. Before that, I had no idea about anything except that Greeks don't like Turks. As a Muslim, didn't want to get into that. Okay, they're Muslim, fine. But when we went to Turkey, whoa. I was shocked how wonderful they are. Like, I am now
They're
definitely
very hospitable, very welcoming.
very welcoming. I love Turkey. They have so many. I feel like I belong more like them because they remind me of Greeks, the good side, all the good side of the culture, but they're Muslim. So don't think hate is necessary.
So your husband is Greek. So
He's a Muslim. He's been Muslim for a long time, like since the 70s. So he's almost practically born Muslim because he was 21 when he converted.
yeah.
So-
You know, of course, here we've got some very, very famous Greek converts.
Yeah, like Yusuf Islam,
Yusuf Islam.
and
Hamza
George
Zootis.
Hamza Georges, mashallah.
Yeah, Hamza Zootis.
Yeah, Georges. The T and the Z in Greek is more like a J, like a G, Georges.
Georges. Yeah.
That's what I don't know why they
Obviously,
use.
Hamza Yusuf as well.
Hamza
in
Yusuf.
America.
Yeah, his mom is Greek.
Mashallah. So what I really wanted to ask you next is about homeschooling. When did you decide, why did you decide to homeschool for both of you?
I'll say because I started. I think I started first, right?
Before me, yeah, you should know a bit older.
I wanted my kids. I didn't mind them going to public school. So one of my kids started in public school, but as I was trying to raise them as Muslims, I kept seeing, with my experience of being Greek, we weren't allowed to do a lot of things in school when I was a kid in Toronto. Oh no, this is not for you guys. This is not for you guys. You're not allowed to do that. It's a Canadian thing. We weren't allowed to do Halloween. We weren't allowed to do Valentine's. We weren't allowed to do anything. So of course, as a Muslim, I started thinking, oh my God, I might have to make those rules for my kids too. Like, you know, you want to raise your kid to know who they are first, and then as they grow old, of course, they're gonna have to learn about everything else too. But as you're growing their personalities, I felt like you need to first teach them one thing: they're Muslim, right? And so I wanted them to go to an Islamic school. Couldn't afford the fees. I've thought about consulting, and then some sister invited me to her house, and she had a meeting there telling other sisters about homeschooling, and I didn't know about homeschooling, so I would have thought it was illegal at that time. I was in my 20s, and then all of a sudden we find out about homeschooling, and that in Ontario it's a legal thing. You can do it. You have just a few things to do. You didn't even have to involve the government, and we just started. My son who went to kindergarten, you guys call it here nursery. He went to junior nursery 1 year, and then after that we homeschooled.
So that's about 3 years.
All my kids have been homeschooled, and
Amazing.
Since we moved here, it only went until they're 16, and then one went at 15, one went at 14, and one went at 13, but the older ones went at 16. So I have 6 altogether. So we
Mashallah.
Yeah.
What about you, Sophia?
When we had 2 young boys, so they were like maybe 2 and 1, we toyed with the idea because I was a bit of an older mom. I had my first one when I was 31. So I'd already had a lot of my life before, working life, social life, single life, and I was so keen to get married, have a family. And so when I started having my children, I was really keen to nurture them and be with them and spend time with them, really enjoy those young years. My mom is a French teacher in France, so I had a lot of exposure to the teaching side from the other end. It's not something that I never really was against the idea of school, but I also based it from my own experiences when I was young, where I found it very stressful to have to get up early in the morning, sometimes in the middle of darkness in winter with lots of snow, and you have to rush.
I love that part of homeschooling. Yeah,
felt like my life was a constant rush, and that I could not go deeply into the subject I really enjoyed, because it was all about learning what I was told to learn, and even the things you absolutely hated and wasn't good at and everything, and you had no say whatsoever, and it was all one size fit all. So we thought we would give it a try first with school. When they went to like nursery for to play, and all of that was really nice, gave me a little bit of a break, especially when the third one came along. But when my eldest turned 4 and a bit, he started reception. We thought, okay, let's see what it is. Small school, Muslim school, really lovely. I knew most of the staff, knew most of the moms. So it was here in Manchester, and it was an ideal setting. But it's a school, in the structure, the walls, the courtyard, the world that it creates, where kids are all more or less the same age. There's already starting to be an us and them mentality. These are the adults and we are the kids.
Social confirmation.
And starting to have these ideas of like racism between the kids and things like this is the first time. My son, we are completely white. My husband is English, son of converts, white. I'm white. My children are white, blue-eyed. And then he arrives there, and you've got some kids who are Arab saying, calling other kids Pakis, who was Malay, And I was like, and he came back with that word. I said, we never taught you that word, ever. Where is that coming from? Kuffar, all of this. I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is not. So even in an ideal setting, you fall straight away at the young age of 4.5, 5.
The kids at school learn from home. What they hear at
home. And their older siblings.
Or the TV or
cousins, whatever. So that was already my first kind of, I don't like that. Second thing that happened was that he started not connecting with his younger brother anymore, who was only a year and a bit 16 months younger. Because when he was coming back from school after 8 hours there, 7 hours there, he was so exhausted and ultra stimulated, and he just wanted a break from everyone. He did not want to be told what to do. Even like one sheet of homework at the age of 5, something a week was too much. He just wanted, like, please leave me alone. I've been in school all day long. I don't want to see anyone. I
Poor
don't want
kids.
to, you know.
Yeah.
And his younger brother was like, okay, then I'll go a little bit longer at nursery. Can I? Okay, so I took him longer to nursery to entertain him, and and then I thought, what am I doing? At that young age, that's it. I'm separating them. Where's the brotherly bond?
It happens
Where's the
to all the
family?
kids who go to school, though. That's a
Yeah.
common thing, and
And
this is
no,
one
you don't play with my friends,
Yeah.
and my friends are
Yeah.
from my school. They're from my
I think
age.
that's
From,
very common among boys. among
it's
brothers.
common. I notice a lot of
Yeah,
kids
that's a
who go to
natural thing.
school
Boys
are
often
like that, and homeschoolers have the opposite. Mostly homeschoolers don't have that issue.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then so we thought after 6 months, so that's it. You're not going back to school. And lo and behold, his younger brother says, well, I don't want to go back to nursery. Why? I thought you enjoyed it. Yes, but I've got everything I need at home. That's all he needed, was his older brother
Yeah.
to play and grow with. And that was it. That was like, that's it. After that, we never looked back, and they were homeschooled until the age of 14. I had 2 younger ones. By the time they were 14 and 13, and so we sent the eldest to a local UTC at the time, so it was, you know, media studies and everything, which was nice, gradual introduction to schooling, so I could concentrate a little bit more into with the younger 2.
Yeah.
But by then we'd done so many activities, sports together. They had exposed themselves to different people, backgrounds, ages, because there's always parents around. There's always a facilitator for a workshop there. So their relationship with adults was completely different than if they'd stayed in school, because they were used to talking to people from all ages, interested in what they had to say. So they felt valued. Felt, okay, I am a person, I have interesting things to say, because you don't always know about everything. So if a child comes to you and says, let me tell you about the bearded gecko that lives in that, and we're like, what? Okay, yeah, all right, I'm listening. And they come, you know, with a long list of facts and things that they found out, and it's fascinating.
That's really interesting.
So we did horse riding together. So as a mom, and my husband occasionally when he could, we did things with them during the day, all day long. We was riding with
you
them.
have to
we
be
were
involved,
swimming.
definitely.
We have, you have no life. You know,
You
it's
have to
very
be-
hard to have a separate life.
It's hard for the mom. When I say hard, though, mind you, it's a good.
It's beautiful
It's
at the same
beautiful
time.
to give that to your kids, because it brings you closer together as a family.
Yeah. But it is, of course, if you want to have a career, and it's important for you to do that, then homeschooling is not really for you. It's your career is growing those little creatures to an adult form of what they were young, the best you can, protecting them but exposing them to the world as well.
I find it really interesting because I loved my school. I had a great time in primary school and high school as well. And I had a lot of friends and everything. And I think years ago I might just have maybe just heard of homeschooling, and I thought, why would someone do that?
Because,
how do people, for me, I was thinking, like, how do they learn the social skills if you're home by yourself?
That is the one thing that's like, ding, we can.
Yes,
If every time someone mentioned about social interaction, we'd get like a pound. We'd be really, really rich.
But how you're saying when you were going to school, you didn't get enough of what you wanted to learn and stuff. But me, I'm feeling like Amara.
Yeah.
I loved school.
Yes.
I loved going. I loved getting books. I loved the environment. I loved my teacher. So I ended up homeschooling, only because I just thought it was best for the kids to raise them as Muslims, spend more time with them, because schools have changed.
Yeah, and
and you spend more time with them, and they get stronger bonds. So more like an exercise in becoming closer together and closer as a family, which really helped in my personal situation. But then they do end up having to go to school. They have to go to school because then they know who they are, and then they go out into the world as who they are. Whereas even me as a little Greek girl, I loved my school. I loved it. But when your parents tell you, you're Greek. Oh, you don't want to be Canadian, do you? No, I don't want to be Canadian. Does that sound familiar? And then you're confused. You get two personalities, one at school, one at home. a lot of Muslim kids have the same problem. Like they wear hijab and they go to school, they take it off because at school they're becoming something else, and at home
I
something
understand.
else. So it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
when
that was one of the
Muslim.
things that for us was really important, was it was to be able to fast during Ramadan without having to worry
Yeah.
about getting up.
So
struggling.
important.
I am in awe of these kids who love fasting. I mean, most kids, they love fasting, don't they?
Yeah.
I think it's the hardest thing to do, but you know, they love doing it.
do.
Because it gives them like a sense of like doing something. It's a lot of kudos for them. Like, oh, wow,
Mashallah.
fasting's amazing.
Do you find? Sorry, Safia.
But all that, just to finish, is like I thought that if they were in a sort of calmer environment where they would be able to decide on their pattern or this timetable, then they would be able to do these things a little bit more kind of holistically part of their life, rather than something I have to add on to whatever else I'm doing as pressure. But you know, and children are very, very adaptable. So when you talk about socialization, we hear, when we talk about homeschooling, we hear the word home, we think
You're at home
they're
all day.
No. It means it's schooling or education within the family setup. Within you,
yes.
but it's you're
Yeah.
seriously out from morning to evening if you
Well,
want.
mostly a lot of homeschoolers. We were more at home, especially after we moved here. But you go on a lot of trips.
Yeah, and you have lots of
So
friends.
this is-
You connect with other families.
I understand that now because I've spoken to other homeschoolers as well. But you know, when I first heard about
Yeah,
it,
of course.
why take that
Yeah, yeah.
option? Do you find that, especially after 2 years of lockdown and everything, and a lot of people have got the taster for actually teaching their children at home, do you think more people are going into homeschooling?
So you had, it was very interesting what happened in lockdown, and we got that through the forums. We had a lot of parents contacting the homeschooling groups that are even the local ones, saying, I've been asked to homeschool my child, and what should I do? And we're like, hold on a minute, this is not the right place for you. This is not school at home. Okay, I'd say some of the groups, one is called Greater Manchester Home Educators and the other one is Home Education Greater Manchester. We said, no, don't come here. You won't get help for a child who should be in school and who's normally in school and now has to be schooled at home because there's no school,
Okay.
right? However, there were some parents who afterwards realized, hold on a minute, I am forcing my child to do all these worksheets so that the teacher can say and tick the boxes and say, we've taught this, and this. What did they retain? Not much. It was stressful. They hated it. This is not how I think my child should be learning. And actually, with my lifestyle, I could potentially have them at home because I'm working at home, I'm a freelancer, whatever it was. or I have got
Especially parents
flexible-
who started working from home.
Yeah, they realized, we can make this work. Maybe often it's because the child's a little bit older and being at school, therefore they have that routine already of doing things during the day that's academic. So quite a few afterwards, well, a few afterwards decided, yes, I will actually home educate my child, but not in the sense of like reproducing school at home, but
Well, you
actually
can't,
integrating
yeah.
that new way of educating their child.
Yeah.
But
I
most
really appreciate mothers now who homeschool because, because I haven't had the experience myself, and I imagine that it takes a lot of preparation, a lot of patience.
more patience and preparation, to be honest, because you can do loads and lots of different approaches. You don't have to sit with your child 9 to 12, then we have a break, and then 2 to, that's not how
You
it
don't have
works
to
at
be
all.
like school. You don't have to be like school for the kids to learn. In fact, school, almost the way it's set up nowadays, it's almost like, I know it's anti-learning. Yes, you're doing some kind of education, but you don't learn the way they teach. You don't learn the way they educate. You just don't.
Yeah.
And they almost ruined the reading, the love for reading, because if you come out of this and you don't love reading, you don't love learning, because you don't have to know everything. As long as you learn how to learn, like where to get information from, you'll be okay. But their lack of like passion for reading, like they don't read, they make the books, they dumb them down. Like if you'll get a nice book, like I don't know, some classic like David Copperfield, but now you'll find it abridged. Abridged means dumbed down
to make it faster.
Why?
To read
Because if you present something to someone like a child, in the past they used to read, right? If they don't understand, they'll understand from the gist of it, and then it brings up their level because they learn from a little bit of challenge. But if you make everything down, like you dumb it down, you make it easier to. But why? But that's why we have a lot of problems with kids these days.
I think a lot of problem is because teachers themselves are under a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
Yes.
They have so much paperwork
it's
to
the
do.
system. It's not the
And
we're not
individual
blaming the
pushing them
teachers
through
at
the
all.
curriculum.
It's not the individual person, definitely
So
not. You can
that's-
see that most teachers are absolutely dedicated to the progress of but they are stuck in a system that does not work. When you have now children, you see, for instance, when you homeschool, you have the whole period where you just develop the love of learning, whichever way it is. Okay, wherever you can find learning. My children have learned tons of stuff I could never have taught them just watching YouTube videos. One of my sons, for a whole year, he was obsessed with motorbikes. He knows how to dismantle a motorbike. Well, he knows. You see, right? He's learned about it. He's not done it physically. That would be the next level up. But he's understood how to do it. He's watched hundreds of hours of videos of people with webcams, going on their motorbikes, talking about the road code, all of these things, and then, that's not time you have. Otherwise, he would no, you have to learn about this. You've got to take this. You've got to do this. Now that he's in school, he's finishing his A-levels. It's purely about an exam. Now it's like, okay, you get some knowledge about it. You don't forget everything, obviously, but it's all about learning the technique of answering the questions
and
so
memorizing.
that you get the most points.
Yeah.
As a French tutor, this is what I see as well in my students. It's about how can I get you to answer that question so you get to get most points. So you're just learning by rote this thing. But what about all of the things around French culture, French language, and this and that? Okay, there's only so much you can teach at different levels, but still.
But language learning doesn't always work like that way by just theory.
Yeah,
right.
and
it's not bad to memorize per se. Memorization has space in our learning. Like I know they completely look down upon it at some point, and they go against memorizing. But memorizing has a space,
It is important,
right?
yeah.
As Muslims, we know because of the Quran, but also multiplication tables and all kinds.
Yes, yeah.
But
Poems.
2 years to do GCSEs, they for 2 years they practice the exams,
Yes,
and I
yeah.
just feel like, what are they learning? Okay, they're learning how to do an exam. That's fine. But what else are they learning? They're learning a body of information that they have to say yes to. Like they have to know. And outside of that, it's wrong.
Yeah, so what about the transition from homeschool to mainstream school? Your children, you said
It
they
really
went
depends on the
14?
child.
Well, my kids transitioned,
Yeah.
so she's working on it, right? I mean,
Well, no,
year
two
two
of them
they
I've
went.
been to, yeah.
But I find my kids they had a period of transition to see how school works, but then they did really well. Like it was challenging because it was different from what they knew. So there's some stuff that we hadn't covered, but other than
They
that,
catch up very quickly.
they catch up very quickly. And my kids were acting like, oh, this is great, and they had good manners, so the teachers loved them. But when I was looking at other kids, I felt like they were, by that time they reached 14, 15, they were already like ready for retirement because
Burnt out.
they've been at school for so many years. But my kids were fresh, little fresh kids at school. Like they were
Excited.
absorbing, learning everything, getting involved in everything. And I like to see them. I didn't have to remind them to do homework. I was never the parent who said, you better do your homework. What are you doing? No, I left it up to them, and they actually self-regulated themselves. So that was the good part that I loved.
Yeah, definitely. It's the same experience we've had. And now I've got my two youngest who are actually taking their GCSEs at home. That means that we are preparing them with tutors because it's useful to have an expert in a different subject. They know, again, how to answer to get the most points. But they do, for instance, chemistry in 1 year. They started their 3 hours per week in June the year before, and they finish May, June a year later. There's no need to do chemistry for 4 years. Now, after that, A levels, if you wanted to take chemistry or maths or whatever it is, you know, you've done your little test that shows that if you understood the basics, that's where you get into the meat, you know, the meat of the thing. And if you never want to study it again, that's it, done and dusted.
So how many?
And they can choose what they want.
And how many homeschoolers are, for instance, in your group? You said
There's so many people
Manchester,
now.
There's numbers are very hard to get. I don't know. In the UK, there's hundreds of thousands of
Now, in Canada, there when I first came here, I think they were not as many as like in the last 20 years, but it's a lot. Like Rochdale, when I first moved to Rochdale, we had like a few people, and now there's groups and groups, and there's Muslim groups now. Before it was only maybe the Jehovah's Witness group or from a Catholic church group. Now a lot of Muslims are doing it. Most new generation parents want to be more involved with their kids, more like give them more, because they don't get a lot at school because the teacher has 30 children. They don't have time.
Also, a lot of parents are worried about what they're actually getting, they're learning in school.
Yeah, especially the social stuff, the so-called social stuff that they teach us, right?
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Little snigger there, I think.
Yeah, because it was
you were not ready.
No, it was a perfect word. Allah answers.
Allah
Answers the dua.
answers.
Subhanallah, subhanallah.
That's exactly it.
In ways that you do not expect.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
better ways than you want.
Absolutely. So that was the adhan for Dhuha Salah here at the Heritage Centre.
Asr.
And please,
Asr.
Asr Salah.
Asr. Oh my goodness, where am I?
We just goes.
It is Asr. It is Asr. And please observe the timings wherever you are. And of course, I've got my lovely guests with me today, Safia and Angela, who are also fellow radio presenters.
We are.
And you can tell me all about your show and also about your amazing project that you have. So first of all, your show is on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays at 12. It's called The Wellness Show with Safia and Angela. Or Angela and Safia. And it's about wellness to do overall, like your mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
So we talk about anything that has to do with wellness, whether it's like next week, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about breathing. I know we all breathe, but there's more to it. And we talk about nutrition, very important to our health. We talk about exercise, fitness. We're also talk about du'as, because that's what the project is about that you're talking about. So that has to do with the wellness of your soul. So basically that's our show. So please tune in on Wednesdays at 12.
And also every time our show is put on YouTube. So if you've missed it, you can listen again, and it's called Wellness with Angela and Safia. So it's really easy to remember. Just type this on YouTube, Spotify, Twitcher, tune in, all of these podcast places. We put our shows up to make sure that you can listen to that
So
information.
if you miss it,
inshallah.
don't worry. And you don't have a pencil when you're listening, because we give a lot of information, right? So sometimes you want to like pause it, but you can't. But you do it on the video, inshallah.
That's great. So tell me about your book that you stories that you're collating.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this idea of collecting stories of positive stories of answered du'as, for years now. Like,
so what's
because
the title of
I guess it would be when your prayers were answered, unless we decide to change.
This is the working title.
Yeah,
it might
this
be
is
that one.
We might have like a different title, and that might be like the byline. But basically, we wanted to do it for a long time, and finally, I think it's like last year, or time goes really fast. Safia agreed that it's a viable idea, because she hears all my ideas, but somehow she knows how to like, oh, is this gonna work, right? So with this, she agreed to work on it after one of her own du'as were answered in a spectacular way. So now we're putting the idea and the how-to and the brains and everything together. Hopefully we'll get it done with Allah's blessing. But it looks like it will happen, because since we agreed to do work on it, so many doors have opened. like people want to know more. I was thinking, who wants to listen about a book that hasn't been finished yet? But we get people all the time
The thing
asking.
is, just listening about it, I mean, it's so inspiring when you hear of people whose du'as have been answered. Of course, it's going to inspire you and motivate you to put more trust in
but
Allah.
we know we know as Muslims that's what
Yeah.
happens.
Yes.
But in this day and age, when you go online and you always hear, oh, stories of this and stories of that, I think there's room for a space for Muslims also to give this to Allah. Allah is the one answering, not the universe. Allah created the universe. That's what we believe. Allah created the universe. Allah created nature. So I think we should speak up. That's what we believe in, right?
Yes, definitely.
And so I think it will help increase our iman a little bit. I mean, we all need it. We all need it. We should be out there to represent Islam for our youth. Or anyone who's like new to Islam, or they're looking for positive stories. This is a good idea, I think.
How have you collected the stories? I mean, is it among family and friends, or
A mixture of people. We've got a website that people can go to, and it's called whenmyprayerswereanswered.com. So all in one word, whenmyprayerswereanswered.com. You'll have a way of contacting us. There's an email there. We've started spreading the word, have little, using social media. Obviously, our families, have contributed, but we have total people who've never met from the other side of the world who've sent us their stories.
Oh, lovely.
Some are really dramatic about their life being completely transformed. I mean, I have, obviously dua like that when I converted, etc. But there's also more mundane ones, like you've lost something and you make a dua and wow, Lord, subhanAllah, it's just there, it just appeared as if by magic. Things like this.
That's like me looking for my glasses.
Yes, and it's very common, and we want to show that dua can be for everything. Do not think that a dua is too little for Allah. For Allah,
Yes.
Allah wants you to make dua. So
Of course, the companions,
Yeah.
they used to make dua even for shoelaces.
that's exactly it.
We're talking about it, and there's a little hadith about that we're going to put in the book.
So it's going to be like a mixture of things. It's going to have personal stories to make it really concrete, like what happens when you make a dua. And also we'll talk about sort of specific moments in the seerah, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran, how Allah explains the process of dua, the hadith, all sorts of things. So we want to make it really like a useful book, but an inspiring book.
There's also the etiquettes of making dua. as well.
Exactly, the right times to do them if you want to know all of this.
So we'll include all that, but with stories too, because the stories make it come alive.
Yes, yeah.
It makes you think.
It shows that people use dua.
And if somebody decides, let me read this book, and then they'll be inspired to make a dua for something they didn't even think about making dua, like just small things. I know some people, Muslim, think, oh, Allah is not gonna, get involved in such a nonsense issue, but it's everything, right? We do have to get into the habit of it to remember.
It's a form of dhikr as well. Connection with Allah.
And other people, even non-Muslims, are doing such subjects, but we believe we represent Allah in this earth as Muslims, and who is better than to do stuff like this? We should be doing it more. I know as human beings we're not that amazing, because we make a lot of mistakes and we make Islam look bad in so many of us, but still we have to try our best.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is important as well, that a lot of non-Muslims are doing this, and we have to present our case as well, kind of thing. Because even just a few days ago, my son, he was listening to, they have these motivational like pep talks, which is really good and everything, and I said, why isn't there one from the Muslim, Islamic perspective? It could still be a pep talk, but include that, Allah is there for you, and that kind of thing. But yes, So can you share some of the stories? I'd love to hear some stories.
Well, we've had different stories, and by the way, people can contribute anonymously. Obviously, we'll see like your email address, but it's, you can still keep it fairly anonymous. We'll accept anything, or a pen name, or like something, or Abu something, if you prefer, or your full name. Ideally, yes, we'd like some form of a name. It makes it more personal. So some of the stories we've had really ranged from, as I said, finding something that was lost, but also having being in a situation where, for instance, being in a very difficult marriage, not having the courage of asking for divorce, or asking for divorce and it's been refused because you're a woman. Why do you ask for divorce? I should decide. And that person went away and made heartfelt dua. Please extract me from this situation, show me the way, help me, give me the strength to ask for my divorce. And when she came back, it was actually the husband who said, that's it, I'm divorcing you, completely out of the blue, when before she'd left he was adamant. I mean, it was impossible that he would even come to that idea. So it just shows, how Allah opens doors sometimes in ways you ask for something particularly, like in a certain way, because that's how you see the problem, how you have to deal with it. But actually Allah gives you an answer from a different angle, which you never thought of, and you wouldn't even think of asking for this to happen. So I love that story particularly for that. But some others were about being in terrible pain from migraine and making dua, and completely unusually for that person's type of migraines. After the heartfelt dua, according to Allah, I am so helpless with that. You're the only one who can help me, because I'm such pain. And the migraine disappeared, when that would not have happened at all, ever, for at least not another day or two. So it's things like that where you can really see, Allah's answered. There was something that, is not quite just the usual process of things, and it can really be anything you think. As a person, you were in a situation, you made a dua, and you can pinpoint it. That's the point where I can say my dua was answered. That's the story we want to have.
And sometimes it's something very trivial as well. It's almost like a wish that you have, kind of thing. My son, he always tells a story. He was working at Heathrow, and it'd been a long day, and there was a line of passengers. He was checking in and everything, and he was just seeing to one passenger, and he was thinking, I really feel like a bar of Snickers. He said, I'm so hungry. Anyway, so he dealt with a passenger, and the man, he was going to go away, and then he came back, and he opened his briefcase, and he had a large Snicker bar, and he said, "This is for you."
Subhanallah, alhamdulillah. This is where the moment.
Why, you guys? That reminds me of a story.
We have
to write this down. Please ask permission to your son.
So we had gone to Greece. Since I moved back from Canada to the UK, that was the first time I ever visited Greece again, because since I was 15, and I became Muslim when I was 18. And after the Bosnia war happened, so I never wanted to visit Greece again. I was really annoyed with them, because they sided with the Serbia and all of that. But when I moved here, my husband knew people. He told me that he knew Muslims in Greece, like community of Muslims who were left over from the Ottoman Empire, and he had met them when he was studying in Saudi Arabia at the university, and he knew them, and I was so amazed. Like I read about that community in Greece, and I never knew there was Muslims in Greece, by the way. They live in the northeast corner of Greece, Thrace, Thrac. So there's Muslims there with the adhan, everything, like mosque.
That's really fascinating.
They're nothing like the one that they're not immigrant Muslims. They are there, like indigenous almost. Okay, so we went to visit, and I was in shock to see Muslim women with hijab, mosque, the adhan. I kept pinching myself, like a different universe. What? The adhan in Greece? I don't even hear it in Canada. So I really loved it. We were invited to somebody's farm, okay? And they were picking figs. Now, figs is one of my favorite fruits in the world, and I hadn't had fresh figs since I was maybe 15. Now I was too shy to say, you know, to these people, can you guys give me some? So I kept saying to myself, okay, Allah, please ask them, make them ask me, please. I want figs. They were just not even thinking, because they were, and all of a sudden, she just gave me this basket. Do you want figs? I was not gonna say no. She just, my dua was answered. Like, I really wanted those figs. I was too shy to say anything, and I kept saying, "Allah, please make them ask me, please." And it happened. Like, that was an instant answer of the dua. I was so happy. Because I love it. But stuff like that can happen to you, just like that. And no, I was not making any comments. I wasn't like guessing, making them. I wasn't even looking at them. I wasn't saying anything about it. I was just saying, no, it's too rude. You know, you're also, as a Greek, I thought they're gonna think it's because I'm Greek and I'm rude, because, you know, for them, the Greeks have given them a lot of hard times in that Muslim community. So I kept thinking I have to be the best mannered. I cannot show any excitement. I just have to like sit here and be quiet and just make your du'as, and it happened. It was answered.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So I got, and that's just a tip of the iceberg. Allah answers so many things.
Yeah, I mean, Allah answered a dua for me before even I was a Muslim, when I had been starting to be told about Islam, and not about Islam, about the belief in one God and what God can do for you by this Muslim guy at uni, and that's how he started, exactly like the Prophet ﷺ said, by the way, that you should start with non-Muslims, talk about La ilaha illallah, nothing else, just La ilaha illallah. This is what you have to get into the heart. And it was about my exam. I was so anxious because I'd failed a few times, etc. And it's just to make the dua. But one thing he reminded me afterwards, said, so how did your exams go? Yeah, they went really well, better than expected. Said, did you make that? Did you pray to God to ask, you know, for help and clarity of mind and everything? I said, yes, I did. It was very embarrassing because in France people don't talk about God, so I was kind of a bit of, yes, I did. And he said, well, don't you think it would be time to say thank you? I was like, well, okay, how do I say thank you to God? I was like, just the corner of my mouth was just, thank you, God. It just felt like, so cringing, because it's just so unusual in France to even mention the word God in a sentence. But now, so that's really reminds me, yes, you have a dua, don't forget to say thank you. Don't forget to be grateful to Allah to have heard you, you know, to continue that connection, you know, feeding. You feed yourself from that.
You know, somebody famous, his name is Mohamed Salah. He plays for Liverpool.
Yes.
Every time, mashallah, that young man, he's so many. He does sajda.
Yeah, there are quite a few footballers who do sajda, and
I'm so impressed with him. Like, mashallah, may Allah bless him. And I always pray for his children, inshallah, because they come to the UK. And you don't know what you're coming into.
No, he's done a lot of good work for Muslims.
The exposure, and a lot of Muslim footballer players have got excellent adab, and they really represent Islam so well, and they have access to a huge audience. I mean, huge audience.
People love
that. We individually will never be able to
I saw a video with Liverpool fans screaming his name and saying
if he can pray, I can pray too. If he goes to the mosque, I can too.
I'll be a Muslim too.
This is a kid from a village in Egypt, you know, probably when he was growing up, he didn't think much of himself, and then he becomes, Allah gives him this, and he's doing something, mashallah, I adore him.
Alhamdulillah.
He looks really young, so he must be like, Abad's age, like 30 or something, I don't know. He looks young. May Allah bless him.
So this is what we're working on at the moment. So we've got lots of projects going on. I have to rein in Angela. She's the brain. Goes all over the place. Oh, we do this, we do that. And I said, yes, but let's start with this. And I'm the doer. I'm the marketing person, the PR.
We're concentrating.
How do you decide which stories are going to be in your book? Because, you know, maybe, and also what time frame?
So So at the
What's
moment,
like cut-off time saying that's it, we're not going to
no,
take
so
any more?
at the moment we are not going to stop ever to take stories in, because it's an ongoing project. Even when you start seeing a physical
could have
book,
volumes.
we will have, you know,
Yeah.
this is the day and age where you have podcasts, you have videos, there'll be YouTube videos, there'll be loads and lots of things around the project. It's not just a physical book and that's it, finished.
Yeah.
So continue to send us your stories.
But now we
even-
want to get that book happening.
we want to
so-
have a physical book, because a lot of people like physical books. I'd like to have a physical book in my
something to read at night before you go to
Exactly.
sleep, instead of crazy stories that keep you up at night.
and also without the screen, because we know screens would be
right?
you know,
It would go well. It would go well.
So we want to it to be on different media. So we're not really going to stop. We have over 20 odd stories. We are not going to really discriminate
Yeah,
from one
we'll
story
put all
to
the
another,
stories
as long
in.
as it's even, you know,
probably
you
edit
might be
them.
telling us stories that are before you became Muslim, or when you were not really practicing, you know, and it's fine, because this is life. This is life, and you'll be inspiring someone
think
who's in
Allah
the
hears
situation
everyone.
to say, yeah, actually there is hope for me too. So don't yourself apply censorship on your own story. Let us decide if we think it's really not really a dua story.
Yeah, well, we'll probably
would be the
just
only
edit
reason.
it. Maybe if somebody submits a written story, all we'll do is to edit, you know, the grammar or not the
Or maybe
not
ask for
the
more
story.
details if it's a little bit too simple. We might
Yeah.
say, "What can you add a little bit? Where were
Yeah.
you at that time? What happened, or something?" Just to make it more like a bigger story. But my mother-in-law sent us poems that she wrote in the 70s when she was a Muslim,
nice.
became a Muslim. So there's loads of formats you can use.
That's a very good idea, having
Yeah.
poems as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Some people prefer to express. Some people have sent us voice messages because they just don't want to write, or they don't find
Have
writing
time.
easy for them. Send us a voice message. We've had written and voice messages in Greek and French. So we can translate that. So if you have,
That's
if you
useful.
struggle, say you have a relative who has got an amazing story, take it from them, get someone to translate it, or translate it yourself for us if it's like in a language we don't do. But I can do
We
Spanish.
want from
and-
everybody,
and,
yeah, not
you know.
only from English speakers, but anyone. If you have a grandma who something amazing happened to her 30 years ago, want to hear about it.
Yeah. Obviously,
Exactly.
make it easy for us. English is the easiest.
Yeah.
Written format's the easiest.
Yeah.
But don't limit yourself. Really, just go ahead.
And when you inspire somebody, that comes to you too. Like if they do something because they heard your story, they made that dua, then you get some of that ajr, right?
Yes, yes.
So there's different ways you
gotta
can
do
contact us. So we have that website, which is the easiest. You just go on whenmyprayerswereanswered.com. You'll have a contact us, our email address, which is it is on the website, but if you want to write it down now, it's prayers.answered.project@gmail.com. And of course, you can, I'm sure, send email to the station if you forgot all of this and you remembered vaguely there were two sisters, excited sisters about a new project on Dua. Just contact the studio, Heritage Radio.
I think it's an amazing project. May Allah put
Ameen.
success and
Ameen.
barakah in your project.
Amen.
Because
Thank you.
Especially nowadays we need this so much. How to instill positivity and hope.
Yeah, exactly. This is part of, basically, we have an umbrella project called hamdaloves.net, hamda-loves.net. If you want to have a look, we talk about Muslim history. That's in infancy. We've got so many things we want to do, so some things are not as developed. We've got we talk about history, we talk about wellness, we talk about the prayers book project, positive stories from Muslims from all over the world, articles we read. We try and have this sort of place where all of these positive stories about Muslim and Islam can be found.
Hamda?
That's called Hamda, as in praise. Hamda is the name for praise.
Yes,
HAMDA dash or hyphen loves, as in love. She loves. hamdaloves.net, and you'll have everything there. Everything we do will be there, but we have then splinter websites that we
It
use for
sounds like
different
a lot of work. Are you just
we
It's just two of
we slowly add. It's been Alhamdulillah, it's been going on for about 4 or 5 years, so we just add things slowly, and a bit of Twitter here, a bit of
We
that,
do
you know, and-
nutrition. I do about nutrition. She does fitness. So
Yeah.
that's another thing we're working on down the road, like a book about that. But that's not too different from nutrition. Like the dua book will be people's contributions.
Yes.
The other one will be what we're
Yeah.
doing. Like
yeah.
So can you give a nice tip to do with nutrition?
with nutrition.
Especially someone who's trying to lose weight.
Okay. Well, it might not sound like much, but I'll tell you, switch your oils. Do not have vegetable oils. Cook with ghee, coconut oil, butter, olive oil, but don't cook olive oil. And remove all the vegetable oils, even if they're called organic. That will remove a lot of inflammation from your body.
It's really interesting.
And if you're not inflamed, you can lose weight. Is that how it works?
Well, the next step then is to do fasting, intermittent fasting. You must have heard
Yes,
this.
yeah.
And to remove as much refined products, especially sugar, from your diet.
So we have a whole on YouTube. You can go back to our YouTube channel, Wellness with Angela and Sophia. We've already covered sugar quite in details. We will inshallah cover go into in depth. We'll have 2 shows on fasting in the next few weeks, just before Ramadan. So the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks before Ramadan, we'll have one show on fasting as a means to be healthy, generally speaking, all the different ways of fasting,
We're gonna-
including
yeah.
obviously Ramadan. And then we'll have a show just on Ramadan itself, how to have a healthy Ramadan. So
but
yeah,
for weight loss, you definitely have to. People worry about calories to the point where they don't care where the calories are coming from. So as long as the calories are certain, they'll have a donut, they'll have this. No, we need to lose weight is also to be healthy. So you have to move towards that, which is removing all processed oils, all vegetable oils. If you know where they come from, you will not even put it in your car. It's that bad. So healthy fats, unprocessed carbs, like and remove sugar. Like sugar is public enemy number 1 almost.
Yeah, it is now,
after
yeah.
alcohol.
Officially now it is, which
Did
is
you
good.
make any pancakes today?
No, I didn't make any. I didn't eat yet. I'm fasting right now.
Oh, mashallah.
And I've increasingly increased it. So as long as you're not, and snacking is not really good for us, right? Because we don't
Your
give our
body
bodies
needs
a
to rest.
chance to burn
Yes,
what you're eating. I
So
know
what time will you eat today?
probably when I get home, I will make something high protein with veg and eat that. Something with meat, something protein, which is good for you. Really
brilliant,
healthy.
Safia and Angela, thank you so much for coming today. It's been
Oh, it was
amazing
good to come.
and very engaging conversation, and I've learnt a lot. I'm sure all the listeners have as well, not only about homeschooling, about your project, and please everyone get in touch. Any stories? I think everyone's got
stories.
Everybody
some
has a story.
stories.
Just don't underestimate it and say, "Oh, nobody wants to hear that." Don't decide.
No,
Please
no.
give it to us.
No, definitely. And your radio show is tomorrow at 12. So I look forward to that. And thank you so much. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much
inviting
for
us.
having us, Amira. It was lovely. Assalamu
you.
alaikum, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.